please welcome to the stage Databricks co-founder and CEO.
Super excited to be here. Awesome. I actually thought we'd start with a little bit of a look back. Believe it or not, this picture is from 10 years ago here at the Moscone Center. We were so excited. We had over 3,000 people in the audience. We were like blown away. We were like, this is impossible. And back then, we were doing AI, but really our focus was on data engineering, making big data simple. That was the big focus. And we had just released Apache Spark a few years earlier. It was just a 1.0 release, and it was a big deal for us. And then 3 years later, this is a picture from 3 years ago. That's, again, Moscone Center, but now we actually had over 5,000 people. Okay, and we thought this is the maximum we're going to ever do. But now we have started focusing more and more on artificial intelligence. We actually changed the name of the conference from Spark Summit to Spark+AI Summit. And I'm sure none of you remember, but I actually went back and looked. I was on stage and I actually live coded, and there was no vibe coding, no assistance, so it's actually real code. With TensorFlow, generative AI, and I made a picture of Boris Johnson back then. And with that, our focus started expanding from data to both data and AI. And if you fast forward actually till today, it's amazing to see where this conference and this community has come. We now have actually over 22,000 people here at the Moscone Center. Yes, super exciting. It's actually a city-wide conference right now. We've taken over all of Moscone. It's basically 4 blocks. And it is the largest data and AI conference on the planet. $65,000 people worldwide are watching right now. And the stat that always blows me away is that there's 150 countries represented, okay? So this is not like a just US or American or West Coast-centric event. It's 150 countries, okay? We have a super awesome program, 700 sessions and trainings happening. Over 200 or 350 customer teams are presenting. So that's you guys are going to present the projects that you've been working on. It's going to be super exciting. And we also have 180 exhibitors. And the backbone of this conference over the years is open source. So the open source projects that were launched in this conference and that you all built now have over 2 billion downloads just on Apache Spark alone, over 1 billion downloads on Delta Lake. Iceberg, which we adopted last year, has over 360 million downloads. And then MLflow, which we use for all of our ML ops and all our experimentation for generative AI, has over 300 million downloads. And together, this is why our mission at Databricks is to democratize data and AI. We want to bring data and AI to as many people on the planet as possible. And I want to take a second to thank our sponsors who make this possible. Especially our legend sponsors, the hyperscalers, AWS, Google, Microsoft. Yes, thank you. And also the GSIs, Accenture and Deloitte, and all the other ones that are on this slide. And I also want to send a special thank you to all the other partners we have. We have the system integrators that help us actually build all this with services in your companies. We have the technology partners that are super essential. They augment the platform, we integrate with them, and they're the ones that actually make us do things that the platform alone cannot do. The built-on partners that build on top of Databricks, their solutions, and they sort of innovate and push the boundaries of what you can do. And then finally, the one I'm very excited about, and which is very important, are the data providers. Right? Those are the ones that you can get on the marketplace on Databricks. You can do delta sharing. You can share the data sets with other BUs and other organizations in the ecosystem. And together, with all of these partners, the most amazing things are our 15,000 customers. That's all of you who are in the room. That's the real impact. That's where the interesting things are happening. So thank you all. So we have a super exciting program. We have actually announcements both today and tomorrow. So, some people think, oh, the announcements are the first day. No, there's going to be new announcements tomorrow, too. So, if you're booking flights to go home tonight, extend them, please. Stay another day. OK, we have very exciting things tomorrow. I thought I'd just start off by sharing a video on one of our customers and what they're doing that I think is really cool. So let's watch Joby here.
Joby has the mission of connecting people to places and the people that matter most to them. And we do that by developing a new class of all-electric aircraft. They can take off and land vertically like a helicopter, but they fly like an air taxi. We're generating gigabytes a minute of data on our airplane.
We want to push this data to our developers, engineers, so that they can gain insights from it very quickly. So Databricks is the platform that we have chosen to make this data democratization happen. Using Databricks has allowed us to quickly develop some of the AI sandbox. We leverage the endpoints, we leverage the model serving, we leverage the foundational models. So all these technologies that Databricks has provided have proven to be very key for us.
What we've tried to do is infuse the best of the way aviation does things with kind of the best of Silicon Valley.
Awesome. By the way, I see huge crowds in the back that are standing. There are seats at the tail end, and there are big videos back there as well if you want to go have a seat. It's easier to watch. OK, so you heard Joby and what they're doing. You're going to hear from hundreds of customers here at this event, what they're doing with data and AI. It's super impressive. But the reality on the ground is that it's actually really hard still to succeed with data and AI. Especially if you're in a company that has been around more than, say, 10 years or 15 years, chances are that your architectural diagram of your company's data and AI infrastructure looks something like what I have on this slide. In fact, this is probably a simplification. Okay? You at least have one of each of those services that I'm putting on this slide. You probably have it from some vendors, or maybe you're using some hyperscalers services for this. You probably have several data warehouses, maybe some on-prem, some in the cloud. You have a bunch of unstructured data that is stored in the lakes. You have real-time solutions that you've custom built for your organization. You have lots of ETL, data engineering, data movement that's happening that's typically bespoke. It's been built over the years, super hard to move. You don't want to break anything with that. And then, of course, all the organizations we work with, they have one of each of the BI tools that exist. Like, they have, literally, when I ask which BI tool do you use, they always say, well, we have every one of them, okay, dating back 20 years. And then, of course, recent years, there's been a lot of focus on data science, machine learning, and now generative AI. So you see all of this in your organization. And what that means is that this is creating a complexity in most companies. It's slowing down the organizations. The costs are super high. And it's creating a proprietary lock-in. So at Databricks, since 5-10 years back, we think this is the biggest problem. Actually, if I look back at our sort of history, we came from academia. We thought we were going to change the world overnight. And the biggest thing that we learned in the last 10-15 years is what we see on this slide. This is why everything moves slow in the organizations. So that's why we, about 5-10 years ago, set out to simplify this architecture and help organizations move faster. That's what we really wanted to do. We sort of brainstorming, how can we simplify this? What can we do? And what we realized over time is that the reason this is a really bad architectural sort of situation is that each of these things has its own data sitting in it, and that's what's really locking people in. There's data and there's metadata. You see that with that binary icon that I have. And then not only that, and this one I think we learned a little bit later, each of them have their own security model, their own access control, their own governance, because everybody's getting attacked. Privacy is super important to every organization out there. So each of these solutions have their own security model that you have to take into account. And that's what's making it really, really hard. So step number one was, how do we get all this data out of all these systems and just centralize them and have you own it yourself? So instead of you having to worry about the data in the different systems, it's sitting in cheap open lakes in an open format. So that was step number one. We actually wrote blogs about this, and we called it the Lake House. That was 5 years ago. And you can see here, this was sort of the reaction in the market when we put that out. They didn't believe in it. You can see, these are different vendors, what they're saying. Choose open wisely was one of the reactions, basically saying that it's a misguided application of open, and really our priorities and our customer obsession dictate against it. And I don't want to pick on a particular vendor. It was just the general kind of reception of this was that way by pretty much everyone, all the hyperscalers and so on. And then, as time went on, you can see now everybody loves open. Everybody's talking about it. You can see the quotes now from all the hyperscalers, from all the vendors that are out there. And actually, we can see now there's even books by the creators of data warehousing talking about the lakehouse and how that's the future. So that's super exciting. So now you have the open formats. It's kind of industry has accepted that this is the way to go forward. Though I would urge you, in your organization, despite a lot of the marketing, the majority of these vendors, the data that you have, even if they say they like open, your organization probably has locked the data. 99% of it is still probably in a proprietary format inside of these data warehouses. So I think we as a community have to push this. Let's really push for the open formats, and let's make sure that you own the data. Don't give it to Databricks, don't give it to other vendors, own it, store it on open lakes, like S3 on Amazon, or like Azure Data Lake Storage, ADLS, on Microsoft Azure, or like GCS, Google Cloud Storage. Okay, store it there. Don't store it somewhere else, okay, because then that leads again back to lock-in. All right, so that was step number one, but there was one more step that actually I think we didn't quite understand how important it was, and it was that of governance. So it's all these security models that each of these have. And I think we actually created the category 4 or 5 years ago, but we never really wrote about it, and I'm starting to believe that this is more and more important than ever. So we'll be talking a lot about this next few days, and tomorrow, make sure you catch Matej's keynote. He's going to be talking about this. So this is what we call unified governance. So what is unified governance? Unified governance isn't just let's do security on our data estate. It's two very key ideas. The first important idea is that you have to do governance on all of your data assets in the organization. Okay? And you should do that centrally in one place. Okay? If in your house, you wouldn't have different vendors do the security on different floors or different doors, right? That wouldn't make any sense. It would be very hard to coordinate and make it work. So you need to do it for all of the different data assets. Not just the structured data that you have, but also for all the unstructured data that you have. But not just for the data, but also for the AI models that you have. But not just for the AI models, also for all the dashboards that you have. Dashboards is the easiest way today in an organization to basically exfiltrate data. You get your hands on a dashboard, it has data sets, you can email them around, and then data evaporates out. So you really have to do governance on all of these, because the raw data becomes the structured data, goes into dashboards, we want to track the lineage of all of that. So that's step number one, that's idea number one. It has to be on all of the different things, and really no governance solution today out there, outside of Unity Catalog, really does it for all of your data assets. So that's number one. Number two, you want to actually have unified capabilities on top of this data. So what I mean by that is it's not just about security. It's not just about access control. It's equally important to have a platform or a governance solution that really helps you with discovery, with collaboration. Because again and again, people are recomputing and coming up with the same data sets in the organization again and again and again. And then people bicker about why their numbers don't match. You want to track the lineage of all these different things. You want to understand the business semantics. Where do I find the authoritative data set for revenue for this product line? You want to be able to easily find that, and there should be no doubt which data set that is. That is what business semantics is, and we'll talk a lot about that at this conference on how we're taking the next step towards this. Cost controls. If you're going to have all this data and AI infrastructure, all these different services, you have to be able to do cost control. So there has to be a way where you can do that centrally. And then data quality monitoring. So these are super important. And unfortunately today, actually, despite all the talk about governance in the market, most focus is just on access control on structured data. Like if you look at efforts like Polaris, they're really just focused on this narrow slice of governance. So we're really hoping that you can push your organizations and we can together push towards unified governance. And at Databricks, unified governance, that's really the lake house, okay? We get, at the bottom, the open formats. And I'm super excited to share now that Databricks 100% supports, as formats, Delta Lake and Iceberg. You can use both formats. We have 100% support for both. So a year ago, we announced that we acquired a company called Tabular. The founders of that company are the original creators of Apache Iceberg. And we've been working this whole year on bringing these formats closer and closer and closer. So in Databricks, essentially, the differences are largely now negligible. And you should listen to Matej's talk tomorrow, because if you're actually using Unity Catalog as your catalog of record for your open formats, whether it's Delta or Iceberg, you will be able to actually read and write to these data sets from any system out there, okay? And we'll show in performance benchmarks that if you pick Unity Catalog as the catalog of record for your open data in Delta Lake and in Iceberg, you'll get significantly better performance in actually ingesting and processing that data. So this will be the most open approach you can take to the lakehouse. And then on top of that, we provide Unity Catalog, which we open sourced last year. We're continuing that. We're going to continue open sourcing more and more. And most importantly, it also implements 2 of the standard open source interfaces for cataloging. The first one being Hive Metastore, and the second one being ICE REST Catalog. So these 2 interfaces, any system that wants to talk to an open catalog, you can just pretend this is a Hive Metastore or this is a ICE REST Catalog. And it's actually the most complete implementation of ICE REST Catalog in the industry today. So this is the lakehouse. And we're super excited about this. This is what we've been focused on for the last 5 years. But what we're really excited about at Databricks is when you take this lakehouse as your foundation, and then on top of that, you build intelligence into the platform. So what we mean by that is you take AI and you infuse it throughout the platform. That's what we call data intelligence. Okay? Data intelligence for us means really 2 things. One is we want to democratize access to data in your organization. In the past, you had to be someone who knows Python or SQL or maybe even Scala or Java to get value out of your data. We want to challenge that and change that so that it should be enough if you just speak English to your data or any other mother tongue or natural language that you have, and we should be able to get answers for you. So that's number 1 for data intelligence. Number 2 is we want to also democratize AI, which means we want to help you build your own AI for your companies so you can innovate AI that can reason and answer questions on your proprietary enterprise data or organizational data that's out there. Okay? So not just general intelligence and artificial general intelligence that can answer questions about anything out there, but that really, with high quality and adequate costs, can answer questions on your proprietary data. So on the left-hand side, democratizing data, the sort of English, the new programming language. We have 2 products that we have had in the market now for over a year. Genie, on the left-hand side, you can see, is a product that's now used by 81% of our customers. How that works is that you just ask your question, you create these data rooms, so you can take any data sets in Unity Catalog and create a data room, and you can share it with anyone in the organization, invite them to the data room, and they can just speak English to Genie. And what it does is it uses an ensemble of agents, comes up with a plan, and actually writes code for you, and then executes that. So you don't need to know any of that. You're just speaking English, and it's just interacting with you and giving you the results that you see on the left-hand side. So I think this is going to be the future. Eventually, this is going to be the way everyone does data science. But today, it does require preparation of the room. If you don't prepare the room, generative AI still has ways to go for it to be completely automated, right? So, there's, still can't do the full thing that data scientists do unless you've prepared the room. On the right-hand side is the assistant. So 98% of our customers are actually using the assistant. And what that is throughout Databricks, we've made the assistant understand every aspect of the platform. So if you're running into an error, you can click Diagnose Error. If you have a piece of code, it can explain it. And it understands your data in the organization. So that's the key thing about the assistant. Unlike other assistants out there that are great at programming, this one understands the data that you have in Databricks. So that's what we call data intelligence. I've been a power user of Databricks, no surprise, for the last 10, 15 years. And today, I just use this all the time. Like, this is my preferred way. Even though I used to prefer just coding myself, I use the assistant. I let it write the code for me. I review it. But it's completely transformed what I'm doing. And I'm much, much more productive. And I think we're seeing it with everyone that's using Databricks. OK, so that's just democratizing data. Let's look at AI. On the AI side, we announced last year Mosaic AI agent framework. You could build your own agents. You could do vector search. You could do model fine-tuning, guardrails, and so on. And in particular, we have now, if you look at the platform, classic ML is being used by 95% of our customers. And then we have generative AI that's picked up, and it's at 81% of our customer base. So super excited about this. Listen to Hanlin's talk today, where we're going to talk about basically the next generation of how we want you to develop your own data intelligence on your data. So one of the big announcements are going to be by Hanlin. OK, So that's the data intelligence platform. That's what you're seeing in this picture. You have the lakehouse, and we've infused AI throughout it. We've simplified everything by removing a lot of the knobs using AI. And we think that this is going to be a big deal. Data intelligence is going to be something that every organization on the planet wants. And that's going to change and transform jobs throughout the planet. And I think we need to educate billions of people around the world on how to do data and AI themselves. That's why I'm super excited to announce today that we're actually launching what's called the free edition of Databricks. So what is the free edition of Databricks? Free edition of Databricks means you don't need to swipe any credit card. We're not going to ask you for any credit cards, we promise. And we're not going to ask you for a business email. You can use your Gmail or your Hotmail or, and just log in. And you can get a free slice of Databricks forever, okay? It's just there. But the limitation is you get a small slice, right? You can't come in and say, I want 1 million machines, because then we go bankrupt in an hour, right? But that's how it works. And together with this, we're also doing a $100 million investment in training and education and try to get Databricks Free Edition out to all the universities out there. So please help us. And we've taken all of our self-paced learning that we've had over the years, where you can learn to do various things, like you want to build a recommender, or you want to do inventory analysis, or you want to do forecasting, or you just want to build data pipelines that are robust. We're taking all that self-paced training, and we're open sourcing it and making that free as well. So really need your help. Please help us get the word out with this. If you have contacts at universities, or if you want people to learn, let's get this out there. This is the best way for anyone to learn and get started with data and AI. Okay, so super excited about this. Data democratization is super important. Data intelligence is super important. I want to welcome on stage Richard Masters, who's VP of Data and AI at Virgin Atlantic, to tell us about how he's democratizing data and AI at Virgin Atlantic. The stage is so big. This is the biggest stage we've had, so the timing is a little bit off. You know, it's a long walk to the stage here. Richard.
Hi.
Super excited to see you again.
Great to be here.
So I'm a little bit curious. So data is the foundation of all this stuff. I'd love to hear a little bit at Virgin Atlantic. How do you get the right data foundation so that you can do all these exciting things on top of your data?
Yeah, it really starts with my great team, really. We've got data product managers, data engineers, scientists that really build data assets and products on the medallion architecture through bronze, silver, and gold, and then all managed by Unity for us. That makes it all visible for us. We can see it all there on the left side of the screen. You've got the flight, you've got customer, you've got commercial, and it all becomes that left join of the organization. But it makes it discoverable. It makes it shareable, so we can use Genie, we can use Assistant, we can use dashboards to really help our stakeholders out there in the different domains use the data, discover it, and trust it.
Awesome. So step number one, get the data in a good place, and you need a great team for that, which you have. That's awesome. So then once you have that in place, how do you deal with security governance? How important is that, first of all, and how do you do that on top of all of your data?
Yeah, it's super important. The way we think about governance is it's intrinsic to each product that we build. And whenever we have a product or a problem or an opportunity, we start with the requirement, we build that out, and that's got requirements around the insight that has to come out of it, or the integration that has to happen with enterprise applications. But through that is the security, the type of data underneath it, the observability of costs, management of that. It all helps us through Unity Catalog track that right through to the compute, right up to the output, the way it's going to be consumed. And we can obfuscate, we can mask out, we can really track that and give trust in that data, in that output through the governance of Unity Catalog.
Awesome. Okay, so we have the medallion architecture, you have the data, your data teams fix it, and then on top of it, you have your security. You've done your masking in Unity Catalog so that the data is ready to be consumed. Are there any exciting use cases? Are you doing anything with data intelligence, AI? Tell us a little bit about the use cases.
There's so many use cases and exciting problems in the airline industry. We've got a lot of traditional ML problems around predictive maintenance, around dynamic pricing, understanding drivers of experience for our customers, all great stuff. But some really exciting stuff we're doing more recently with language models is around triage, is around summarization and categorization of health and safety messages. You know, super important for us as an airline to keep everyone safe. And we want to be able to, we want people to report, but we want the teams that are dealing with those messages to really focus on fixing things or anticipating things that might come up. So what we're managing to do with the language models is categorize, summarize, and prioritize those with the human in the loop. So this is where our visions really align at Virgin Atlantic and Databricks, where that human in the loop is critical to how we really engage with AI in the organization. And it's saving those teams, you know, 1 to 2 hours per day, several hours per week. And we also have an engine that we can reuse around multiple other customer care use cases as well. So that triage component can really be reused around everything in the organization.
That's super impressive. So basically, we can make the airplane safer using AI because the whole triage process can be automated with a human in the loop. Whether that's a big thing for us at Databricks too. We'll be talking about it next few days, which is we think that for the AI, there needs to be a human in the loop because they do make errors, and we need to make sure that we're supervising that and making sure that's correct. So super excited about this. Thanks for sharing this with us. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks so much.
Round of applause for Richard.
Thank you.
Okay, so we know that AI is going to disrupt things. I mean, you heard triage management, lots and lots of different use cases. In every organization, you're seeing it. I'm sure it's the #1 thing that's being discussed at your company. And you can see some of the headlines here from the newspapers. I mean, there's like every day, it's like an endless number of these. Future of payroll, content management, CRM, IM, and so on and so forth. In fact, if you look at all the different categories of software that exists today, whether it's CRM, ERP, human capital management, contracting, and so on and so forth, it doesn't require that much imagination to see how AI is going to completely disrupt each one of these. AI is going to be infused into this. You're not going to have to manually go and enter things into the system. It's going to be able to capture all of that. It's going to be able to organize a lot of that, and it'll be able to give you the insights automatically. Just like the triage example, you'll know which customers you need to upsell. You'll know exactly what you need to do in the supply chain, where the bottlenecks are, where to place them, which employees you're going to promote, who needs a raise, and so on. All the software is going to be disrupted by AI. So the question is, what's the foundation needed for each of these categories to be able to do that disruption with data? Okay, so really at this conference, we've been talking a lot about data and AI, right? We said that's clearly two very important pillars of all of these applications. The future disruption will build on these. Every one of those categories, every one of those companies that maybe you will start or companies that you are in will build on that data and AI foundation. And at Databricks, when we usually say data, what we really meant was basically data analytics. Okay, that's what we kind of meant, right? Data warehousing and the management of that data for analytics purposes, and then we had the AI. But one thing that we haven't talked too much about at this conference in previous years, which underpins actually every piece of software that exists around the world, is the database. Okay, so I'm talking about the traditional transactional database, the SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, Postgres kind of underpinning database. And we think that that's going to actually change significantly, and it's a really important area going forward with the infusion of AI and what's going to happen next. Okay, so if you look at these databases, they were really built for a different era. Technology in transactional databases hasn't actually changed that much in the last 40 years. In my previous life at Berkeley, we used to look at this paper called System R that was published in the 70s. This is a research paper by IBM. And 90% of all the ideas that you find in the database today are already in that research paper from then. And not much has happened since then. So why is that? Why are these databases looking the same as back then? Well, #1 is that because data is so sticky, and once you've picked a transactional database and you put your data in it, it's just nearly impossible for you to move off of it or move it to a new thing. So there's just this massive lock-in on all traditional transactional databases. And once you've locked yourself into that, those vendors also don't need to really innovate. They don't need to challenge status quo because you can't go anywhere with it, okay? So it's just such a sticky thing. Much more so than anything else, much more than data warehousing, much more than the kind of stuff that Databricks has been doing for the past decade. Number two, they're very expensive because of that lock-in. Once they have your data there, they can raise the price. And also the architecture, the way it was built in the 80s and 90s, these are big black boxes kind of, maybe they're virtualized in the cloud, but you still clunky big instances that you buy. It takes a long time to spin them up, and they're not really elastic in their foundation. And finally, they're really built for that on-prem era, right? They don't have cloud, they don't have AI in mind, they were built pre-AI, okay? So what we're really excited about at Databricks, and this is another one of our big announcements, is that we think that there's going to be almost a new architecture for these databases going forward, almost like a new category. We call this the lake base. And might sound familiar. It's you split the database into a base and a lake layer. And you take the data that's sitting in these traditional transactional databases, and you store it in lakes, okay, in cheap data lakes, in an open format, okay? So basically disrupt that transactional database. You should own that data. It should be on the lake, in your account, and then on top of it, you do the transaction processing in the base layer on top, okay? So that's what we're super excited about. A simple idea, but kind of hard to pull off. And we think this is going to be the future of all databases. So let me tell you a little bit about the lake base. So number one, we think it should be built on open source, right? And we think that Postgres essentially has one as that lingua franca for open source databases. If you look at its traction, it's absolutely massive. And the best thing about Postgres is the extensions that the community have built over the years. So it's like a massive ecosystem of extensions that are available that lets you do anything from, if you want to do vector processing or key value store or whatever you want to do, it's part of Postgres open source extensions. That's number one. Number two, you should really properly separate compute and storage in that database layer in Postgres. And this is really hard to do because unlike data warehousing or the lakehouse, you want this to be really low latency, okay? So just doing every query and going to the lake would be too slow if you do it naively. So there's been previous attempts at doing this, but they don't really properly separate it out. You want high QPS, queries per second, millions, and you want a production SLAs because this is going to be underpinning your most important, precious AI applications in the future, okay? And then finally, it should really be built for the AI era, okay? It should be able to launch very quickly because we're going to see a lot of agents launching these, and we want to be able to make sure that if they launch hundreds or thousands of these databases, you should only pay for what you're using, okay? This should be able to scale to zero, and most of the time, you're just paying for cheap data lake storage. So that's what we think is the lake base. We are super excited about this.